Have you ever wondered how life manages to exist in places it absolutely shouldn't? From boiling acid lakes to the frozen darkness beneath Antarctic ice, Earth hides some of its most incredible survivors in the harshest corners imaginable. These are worlds of fire, ice, pressure, and radiation, places that should be lifeless yet aren't. Today we're diving into 100 astonishing facts that reveal how life endures, adapts, and thrives in the most extreme environments on our planet and beyond. Fact 1. The meaning of extreme. Where life shouldn't exist but does. When you hear the word extreme, what comes to mind? Maybe mountain climbers dangling off cliffs, or astronauts drifting in the cold vacuum of space. But in nature, extreme means something else entirely. It means boiling water that could melt skin. It means ice so cold it cracks rock. It means places so poisonous, so dark, or so empty of oxygen that life shouldn't even be possible. And yet, somehow, it is. For a long time, scientists thought life could only exist in the soft middle, not too hot, not too cold, with sunlight, air, and gentle rain. Then they looked closer. In the scalding vents of the deep ocean, they found tiny organisms thriving. In the freezing deserts of Antarctica, they scraped up microbes still breathing after centuries in ice. Every discovery pushed the boundary of what we thought was habitable. Think about it. If life can grow inside a volcano, or in the crushing depths of the Mariana Trench, what does that say about the rest of the universe? Maybe Mars isn't too dry, maybe Europa isn't too frozen, maybe life doesn't play by our rules at all. What makes these creatures so fascinating isn't just where they live, it's how they redefine the word alive. They challenge every assumption we've made about biology. They're not surviving, they're thriving, creating miniature ecosystems and conditions that would kill almost everything else on Earth. So next time you look at a steaming geyser or a patch of frozen ground, remember, there could be something alive in there, quietly proving that extreme is just another word for possible. Fact 2, from boiling pools to frozen wastes, the limits of life on Earth. If Earth had warning labels, some places would read, instant death for almost everything. Boiling acid pools, ice sheets colder than liquid nitrogen, caves filled with poison gas, and yet, life is stubborn. It finds a way to live, even in the world's most impossible corners. Imagine Yellowstone's bubbling hot springs, temperatures high enough to cook an egg in seconds, and still, bacteria flourish there, painting the pools in bright rings of orange, yellow, and green. These colours aren't decoration, they're survival. Each shade marks a different species tuned perfectly to a temperature that would destroy others. Then picture the opposite extreme, the frozen deserts of Antarctica. Beneath miles of ice, in pitch-black lakes that haven't seen the sun for millions of years, scientists found microbes still alive. They feed on minerals instead of sunlight, rewriting what we know about energy and life. Everywhere we look, nature whispers the same message. There are no true limits, only adaptations. For every furnace, there's a creature that learned to love heat. For every wasteland, a microbe that calls it home. Earth isn't just diverse, it's relentless. And maybe that's the lesson. The edge of life isn't a wall, it's a door, and with every new discovery we push it a little farther open. Fact 3. Extremophiles. Nature's toughest survivors. You could drop them into boiling acid, blast them with radiation, crush them under tons of pressure, or freeze them solid for decades, and they'd still come back to life. These are extremophiles, nature's most indestructible citizens. The name literally means lovers of extremes. They're microscopic, mostly unseen, yet they rule places we once thought lifeless. There are heat lovers called thermophiles, cold dwellers known as psychrophiles, and salt cravers called halophiles. Each group has hacked the rules of biology in its own way. Take the tardigrade, for example, the famous water bear. It's not technically a microbe, but it's the mascot of toughness. Scientists have frozen them, boiled them, shot them into space, and still, they survived. How? By shutting down completely, curling up and waiting. No air, no food, no water, just silence until the world becomes kind again. Extremophiles don't just fascinate scientists, they inspire them. If life can thrive in boiling vents and radioactive pools, maybe it could also exist on Mars, or under the icy crust of Jupiter's moon Europa. Studying them could be our first clue to finding life beyond Earth. They may be small, but they carry a big truth. Resilience isn't about comfort, it's about adaptation. Fact 4. Life without oxygen, the world of anaerobes. Take a deep breath. Feels good, right? Oxygen keeps us alive. But not every living thing agrees. In fact, for some organisms, oxygen is poison. Meet the anaerobes, creatures that live and grow in places where oxygen never reaches. Deep in the mud of swamps, at the bottom of oceans, inside your gut. They thrive in silence, away from the breath of the surface world. Some have been there since the dawn of life itself, long before Earth had an oxygen-rich atmosphere. Instead of breathing oxygen, they use other chemicals to survive, like sulfur, carbon dioxide, or even metals. It's a weird alien kind of metabolism, but it works, and when oxygen finally appeared billions of years ago, it nearly wiped them out. Yet even now they endure, quietly powering some of Earth's most important cycles. Without them we'd have no compost, no breakdown of waste, no recycling of nutrients. They're invisible workers, turning death back into life. In a way, they remind us that not every breath of life needs air. So next time you think of oxygen as life's greatest gift, remember the ones who never needed it. Fact 5. Creatures that love acid. The acidophil's acid burns, corrodes, and destroys. But to some, it's home. Acidophiles are the acid lovers of the microscopic world. Organisms that not only survive but thrive in places so acidic they could dissolve metal. Imagine living in a pool with the pH of battery acid. For us, that's death in seconds. For them, it's comfort. You'll find them in the bright red lakes of volcanic craters, in the smoking vents of sulfur mines, even inside the rusting ruins of abandoned machinery. Their cell walls are built like armor, their enzymes engineered to work in conditions that should shred normal proteins. To them, acid isn't danger, it's protection. Few predators can follow. One of the most famous acidophils lives in Rio Tinto, Spain, a river that runs blood red from iron and acid. Scientists studying it realize something amazing. This river looks and behaves almost exactly like the surface of Mars, which means if acidophils can live there, maybe something similar could live beyond Earth too. It's strange, isn't it? The very thing we call destruction is, for some, the spark of life. Fact 6. Salt lovers. Surviving in dead seas and salt flats. If you've ever tasted ocean water, you know it's salty. But even the ocean is mild compared to the true salt kingdoms of Earth. Places where crystals form like frost and water evaporates faster than it falls. The Dead Sea, the Great Salt Lake, the endless flats of Bolivia, they look dead, empty, silent. Yet hidden in that shimmer are life forms that adore salt. They're called halophiles, salt lovers. Their cells are built for brine. They live in water so salty it would turn our skin raw, and still they thrive. Some even make the water pink or red, their pigments shining like desert sunsets. Those colours aren't just beautiful. They're survival tools, protecting them from the fierce sun. How do they do it? Simple. Chemistry. Halophils stuff themselves with salts to balance the pressure outside. It's a delicate act of equilibrium. Too little, and they'd burst. Too much, and they'd collapse. They've turned what should be deadly into home, and there's more. The oldest living things on Earth might be halophiles, microbes sealed in salt crystals millions of years ago, still waiting. Scientists have found some that wake up again when water returns, as if time never passed. So when you stand at the edge of a salt flat feeling the world's silence, remember, beneath those white layers, life is still there, patient and preserved. It doesn't need comfort, it just needs balance. Fact 7. Boiling point life, microbes of hot springs and geysers. Step too close to a geyser, and the air itself feels alive. Hissing, steaming, burning. The water bursts from the earth, hotter than boiling, filled with minerals that would scald flesh in an instant. For most creatures, this is a forbidden zone, but for some, it's paradise. These are the thermophiles, heat-loving microbes that live at the edge of the boiling point. They thrive where chemistry becomes chaos, in the sulfur pools of Yellowstone, in the geysers of Iceland, in Japan's volcanic springs. To them, 80 degrees Celsius isn't deadly, it's just a warm bath. What makes them so extraordinary is how they endure. Their proteins don't unravel in the heat. Their membranes stay firm when ours would melt. They even use the extreme temperature to their advantage, powering reactions that wouldn't work in normal conditions. In a way, they remind us of the planet's fiery beginnings, when Earth itself was a hot spring, and the first forms of life were learning to survive in molten seas. Some scientists even believe life started in places like these, deep bubbling vents where heat and chemistry met. Every geyser that erupts might be echoing our planet's first heartbeat. It's proof that heat, destruction and creation are all part of the same story. Fact 8. Icebound worlds. Life trapped in glaciers. Imagine being trapped in ice for centuries. No sunlight, no movement, no warmth. You'd think that's the end of life. But under the surface of glaciers, something extraordinary endures. Tiny microbes live inside the ice itself, frozen, but not dead. They drift through microscopic cracks filled with salty water, eating dust and minerals carried by the wind long ago. Some of them have been sealed away since the last ice age, others for millions of years. When scientists drill deep into glaciers and melt the samples, they find life waking up again. It's as if the planet has been quietly storing its own memories, locked in frozen glass. It's not just Earth either. These icy survivors give scientists clues about where to look next. Like Europa or Enceladus, moons covered in ice. If life can endure under kilometers of glacier here, maybe it can survive out there too. Even in stillness, glaciers move, slowly carving valleys, carrying secrets, and holding tiny lives in suspension. Every layer of ice is a page in Earth's diary, and somewhere, deep down, something is still alive, waiting for the sun to find it again. Fact 9. Deep-sea darkness. Where sunlight never reaches. Dive far enough, and the world disappears. No colour, no light, no warmth. Just cold, black pressure pressing from all sides. It's the deep sea, a realm so alien it might as well be another planet. For centuries, people thought it was empty. No sunlight means no plants. And no plants means no life, right? Wrong. When explorers sent cameras down, they found a universe of glowing creatures, drifting silently through the dark. Jellyfish pulsing like ghosts. Fish with teeth that shine. Squid flashing blue lightning. Everything here has learned to live without sunlight, by creating its own. Bioluminescence isn't decoration, it's language, camouflage, and hunting weapon all in one. Down here, light is the currency of survival, and it's not just beauty, it's resilience. Some creatures never rise more than a few meters in their lifetime. They live off the marine snow, tiny flakes of organic debris falling from above. Others gather around hydrothermal vents, feasting on bacteria that turn chemical heat into food. It's a dark world, yes, but not a dead one. It's proof that life doesn't need light, only imagination. Fact 10. Pressure. Beyond imagination. Creatures of the ocean. Trenches. The deepest point on Earth, the Mariana Trench, lies nearly 11 kilometers down. The pressure there is so crushing it would flatten a car into metal dust. Sunlight never arrives. The temperature hovers just above freezing. It's the closest thing we have to an alien world, and still, it's alive. Down there swim ghostly fish with transparent skin, shrimp-like amphipods that feed on falling debris, and strange jelly-like creatures that move as slowly as the currents themselves. Their bones are flexible, their bodies soft, because rigidity breaks under pressure. In a way, they've evolved to flow rather than resist. Scientists exploring these trenches have found bacteria that can digest oil, metals, even plastic. They live off what the surface world forgets, turning waste into energy. Every discovery rewrites what we think we know about life's limits. And when submersibles turn off their lights, the darkness is total, like drifting through the void. Yet, even there, small sparks appear. Tiny flashes of bioluminescence signaling that life endures. It's humbling to think that the most fragile-looking creatures are the ones that survive the strongest forces. In the quietest place on Earth, pressure becomes peace, and life still finds its rhythm. Fact 11. The microbes of hydrothermal vents. Life born of fire. Imagine the seafloor cracking open, releasing columns of black smoke that rise like underwater chimneys. The water there can reach over 400 degrees Celsius. filled with metals and sulfur that would kill most life instantly. But right around those vents, something miraculous happens. Life thrives. These are the hydrothermal vents deep beneath the ocean, where sunlight never touches, and yet entire ecosystems bloom in total darkness. The secret: microbes. They are the architects of this fiery world. Instead of using sunlight like plants do, they use chemistry. They take the toxic gases spewing from the vents, hydrogen sulfide, methane, iron, and turn them into energy. It's called chemosynthesis, and it's how life can exist without the sun. These microbes form the base of the food chain down there. Giant tube worms, crabs, and shrimp all rely on them, either by eating them or by partnering with them directly. Without these microbes, the deep sea would be a desert. Scientists think hydrothermal vents might even be the birthplace of all life on Earth. Billions of years ago, when the planet was young and violent, vents like these could have provided the perfect shelter: warmth, minerals, and chemistry. Life born from fire. So when you look at a volcanic vent on the ocean floor, you're not just seeing a strange anomaly, you're looking at a window into our own beginning. Fact 12. Tube worms and their alien symbiosis. At first glance, tube worms look like something out of science fiction. Long white tubes topped with bright red plumes, waving gently in black water. They live thousands of meters below the surface where there's no light, no plants, and no oxygen. Yet they grow taller than a man. How? The secret lies in partnership. Inside each tube worm lives a colony of special bacteria, the same kind that thrive near hydrothermal vents. The worm provides a safe home, while the bacteria turn chemicals from the vent, like hydrogen sulfide, into food. It's a perfect trade. The worm doesn't even have a mouth or stomach anymore. It doesn't need them. Its bacteria partners do all the feeding. It's one of nature's strangest marriages, a creature that survives not by hunting, but by hosting. This symbiosis is so efficient that tube worms can live for decades in the pitch-black depths, feeding on volcanic energy. Scientists studying them often say it's the closest thing we've found to alien life, because if something like this can exist here, thriving in darkness, living off the Earth's heat, maybe something like it could exist under the icy crust of another world. Down there, in the silence of the deep, life isn't alone, it's shared. Fact 13. Transparent hunters, deep sea, jellyfish and shrimp. In the deep sea, being invisible isn't a trick, it's survival. Light barely exists there, and anything that glows or casts a shadow becomes an easy target. So many creatures like jellyfish and shrimp simply vanish. Not by hiding, but by becoming transparent. Their bodies are made almost entirely of water, with tissues so clear you can see straight through them. Jellyfish drift like living glass, their tentacles invisible until they pulse with faint blue light. Shrimp, too, are masters of disguise, nearly see-through, except for their eyes, which sometimes glow like tiny lanterns in the dark. It's eerie, beautiful and practical, in a world where even the smallest glimmer can give you away. Invisibility is the ultimate armor, but transparency isn't just about defense. Some deep-sea creatures use it to hunt. They float unseen until prey drifts close, then strike in silence. Scientists have even found shrimp that can control how transparent they are, adjusting depending on light and angle, like changing camouflage on the fly. The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Down there, light is both a gift and a curse, and the ones who master it, or avoid it, rule the shadows. Fact 14. Lanterns of the abyss, bioluminescence in the dark. Imagine floating in complete darkness, and then a spark. A soft blue glow, a flash of green, a ripple of light through the water. It's not magic. It's life communicating in its own electric language. Bioluminescence is the deep ocean's light show, a chemical reaction that lets creatures create light inside their own bodies. Some do it to hunt, others to hide, and some simply to talk. Tiny plankton light up when disturbed, glowing like stars in a dark sea. Certain fish use glowing lures to draw prey closer, like the famous anglerfish, dangling its lamp in the black, and squid can flash patterns of light to confuse predators or send signals to each other. What's incredible is that this light is cold. No heat, no flame, just pure luminescence. It's one of nature's most efficient forms of energy. In the deep, where sunlight never reaches, This is how life writes its stories, with light. Next time you see a wave sparkle at night, remember that it's the same phenomenon. The same ancient chemistry that keeps the deep alive. Down there, light isn't a gift from the sun, it's a language invented by life itself. Fact 15. The giant squid. Phantom of the deep. For centuries sailors whispered about monsters, enormous arms rising from the ocean, pulling ships into the abyss. They called it the Kraken. Today we know it was no myth. It was the giant squid, one of the most mysterious creatures on Earth. For most of history, no one had ever seen one alive. Only their remains washed up on beaches or surfaced in fishing nets. Huge eyes the size of dinner plates, tentacles stretching longer than cars. Scientists only recently managed to film one in its natural habitat, and even then, it appeared like a ghost. Silent, graceful, almost unreal. Giant squids live deep, far below where light reaches. Their enormous eyes help them catch faint flashes in the dark, the glow of prey or the approach of predators like sperm whales. When they swim, their long arms ripple behind them like ribbons. When they hunt, they strike fast, wrapping prey in a storm of suckers and hooks. What makes them so captivating isn't just their size, it's their mystery. They live in a world we barely understand, and even now, we've only glimpsed them a handful of times. The ocean keeps its secrets well. The giant squid reminds us that even in our age of satellites and deep-sea robots, there are still monsters out there, not in stories, but in truth. Fact 16. The Midnight Zone, Earth's largest living space. Imagine diving so deep into the ocean that sunlight completely disappears. The water turns black. The pressure is crushing. The temperature is close to freezing. Welcome to the Midnight Zone, a place that covers most of Earth's living space, yet remains almost entirely unseen. This zone begins around 1,000 meters below the surface and stretches down to about 4,000 meters. It's the biggest habitat on Earth, but it's easy to forget because no light reaches it. You could shine the strongest flashlight and still only see a few meters ahead. Yet, against all odds, life here thrives. The creatures that live in the Midnight Zone are like something out of a dream, or maybe a nightmare. Fish with transparent skin, jellyfish that flash like neon lights, and creatures with teeth so long they can't close their mouths. They live in a world where every meal, every bit of movement could mean survival or starvation. One of the most fascinating things about this zone is how energy flows. There's no sunlight to power photosynthesis, so life depends on what falls from above. Flakes of organic debris drifting down from the upper ocean. Scientists call it marine snow. Down here, even that slow, constant rain of particles is precious. And then there are the predators. The anglerfish, for example, dangles a glowing lure from its head to attract prey. It's a brutal yet brilliant solution in a world without light. Many creatures here are transparent or red, colours that make them nearly invisible in the deep. Others have huge eyes designed to catch the faintest glimmer of bioluminescent light. But perhaps what's most striking is how peaceful this darkness feels. There's no chaos, no noise, just slow movement, soft drifting, and a quiet struggle for survival. It reminds us that even in the most remote, hostile corners of Earth, life finds balance. And the Midnight Zone isn't just a curiosity, it's crucial to our planet. It helps recycle carbon, regulates ocean chemistry, and supports ecosystems that stretch across the globe. So next time you think about life on Earth, remember this. The majority of it lives in the dark, deep below the waves, where the sun never shines. That's the real heartbeat of our planet. Fact 17. The ocean floor. A world of bacteria and bone-eating worms. At the very bottom of the sea lies a world so strange it might as well be another planet. The ocean floor is covered in fine sediment, rocks, and the remnants of creatures that once swam above. Fish bones, whale carcasses, shells, and tiny bits of organic dust. To most eyes, it looks empty. But look closer, and you'll find it's teeming with life. Bacteria dominate this hidden world. They live in the mud, on rocks, and even inside bones. Some feed on the remains of dead animals, others survive by using chemicals that seep from the Earth's crust. These bacteria are the silent recyclers of the deep, turning death back into energy for life. Then there are the bone-eating worms, known scientifically as osedacs. These strange creatures have no mouths, no stomachs, and no eyes. Instead, they grow root-like structures that burrow into bones and absorb nutrients with the help of symbiotic bacteria. A whale carcass that sinks to the seafloor becomes a miniature ecosystem, a city of scavengers, worms, crabs, and microbes, all living off a single fallen giant. Over time, that whalefall becomes a hub of biodiversity. It's like a temporary oasis in the middle of the ocean desert. Different species move in as the carcass decays, from hagfish and amphipods early on, to bacteria and worms that finish the cleanup years later. It's a haunting reminder that nothing in nature truly goes to waste. Even in darkness, life continues its endless cycle: decay, rebirth, transformation. And maybe that's what makes the ocean floor so incredible. It's not lifeless, it's just quiet. A world that runs on patience, recycling, and cooperation between some of the smallest, toughest organisms on Earth. Fact 18. The snow that feeds the deep. Marine detritus and survival. Imagine standing in a snowstorm that never ends, but instead of ice, it's made of tiny fragments of dead plankton, fish scales, and microscopic poop. That's what it's like at the bottom of the ocean. This constant drizzle of particles is called marine snow, and it's the deep sea's main source of food. Every flake of marine snow starts somewhere near the surface. Plankton bloom in the sunlight, fish feed, and eventually, what's left, the waste, the remains, the bits of carbon, begins to drift down. It can take weeks or even months for these particles to reach the deep ocean floor. By the time they arrive, they're all that's left to eat in a world without light. Marine snow isn't glamorous, but it keeps the deep sea alive. Tiny creatures called copepods feed on it. Worms sift it through the sediment. Even massive animals like sea cucumbers spend their days crawling across the bottom, vacuuming up the soft white dust of the ocean's leftovers. And here's the amazing part. This slow, quiet snowfall also helps regulate Earth's climate. As carbon sinks to the depths, it's stored there for centuries, keeping it out of the atmosphere. In other words, marine snow helps cool the planet. Without it, the deep sea would starve, and the Earth's carbon balance would fall apart. Every speck of that drifting snow is a tiny piece of a much bigger system, one that connects sunlight, death, and renewal in one continuous loop. So the next time you imagine the ocean's surface shimmering in the sun, remember that far below, in pitch-black silence, it's snowing every day. And that snow, soft, slow, and endless, keeps an entire hidden world alive. Fact 19. Frozen seas, penguins, seals, and polar fish. It's easy to think of ice as the end of life, cold, barren, and empty. But in the frozen seas of the Arctic and Antarctic, life doesn't just survive, it thrives. Take penguins, for example. They spend half their lives swimming through icy waters colder than freezing, yet their feathers trap air so efficiently they stay warm and dry. Seals, too, are masters of insulation, their thick layers of blubber keeping them comfortable even when the water could kill a human in minutes. Then there are the fish, the ice fish, the Antarctic cod, and many others that have evolved something extraordinary. Antifreeze proteins in their blood. These proteins stop ice crystals from forming inside their bodies, letting them swim through water that should, by all logic, turn them solid. Under the ice, the world is dazzling. Strange algae bloom on the underside of frozen sheets, feeding krill, and those krill feed nearly everything else. From whales to penguins to seals, it all starts there, in a place where light filters through a roof of ice. But these frozen seas are fragile. A few degrees of warming can melt the foundation that keeps this ecosystem alive. The balance between cold and life is razor thin. Still, it's a powerful symbol of Earth's resilience. Even at the edge of the world, where the air bites and the sea burns with cold, life finds a way, wrapped in feathers, fur, or antifreeze blood, dancing beneath the ice. Fact 20. Ice fish, with blood that never freezes. In the freezing waters of the Southern Ocean swims one of nature's strangest creatures, the Antarctic ice fish. At first glance it looks ghostly pale, almost transparent. That's because it has no red blood cells, no hemoglobin. Its blood is clear. Sounds impossible, right? Most animals need hemoglobin to carry oxygen, but in the frigid Antarctic, Oxygen dissolves easily in cold water. The icefish gets enough just by letting oxygen diffuse directly into its bloodstream. It's an elegant, if eerie, solution. To survive, the icefish also makes antifreeze proteins, molecules that stop its blood from turning to slush. These proteins latch onto tiny ice crystals and keep them from growing, even in water below 0 degrees Celsius. It's one of evolution's wildest tricks. But this life comes at a cost. Without red blood cells, the icefish's metabolism is slow. Its heart is enormous, pumping constantly to circulate enough oxygen. Everything about it is built for endurance, not speed. And yet, somehow, it thrives. Schools of icefish drift beneath the frozen surface, feeding on krill and plankton in the dim Antarctic light. Scientists study these creatures not just to understand how life adapts, but also to imagine what life might look like elsewhere. Maybe under the icy crust of Jupiter's moon, Europa, or Saturn's Enceladus. The icefish reminds us that impossible is just a matter of perspective. In a place where blood should freeze solid, it flows clear and strong, a quiet miracle beneath the ice. Fact 21. Antarctica's hidden lakes. Life beneath miles of ice. Beneath the thick, frozen heart of Antarctica, there's a secret world. It's dark, silent, and sealed off from the surface by more than 2 miles of solid ice. And yet, unbelievably, it's alive. These are Antarctica's hidden lakes, ancient bodies of water that have been trapped under the ice for millions of years. The most famous of them is Lake Vostok, a lake so deep it could drown a skyscraper, yet completely cut off from the outside world. For decades, scientists thought nothing could live there. No sunlight, no fresh air, just crushing pressure and freezing temperatures. But when researchers finally managed to drill down, what they found shocked everyone. Microbes, thriving in total darkness. These tiny organisms don't use sunlight for energy. Instead, they survive by feeding on minerals and chemical reactions between the rock and water beneath the ice. It's like a self-contained ecosystem, powered by the planet itself. What's even more amazing is what these lakes might tell us about life beyond Earth. If microbes can survive in such isolation here, maybe life could exist under the icy crusts of distant moons like Europa or Enceladus. Each hidden lake in Antarctica tells a story, not just of survival, but of patience. These waters haven't seen the sky for millions of years. They're time capsules preserving a record of what Earth's life was like long before humans ever appeared. So deep beneath all that ice there's movement, there's chemistry, there's life, quiet, ancient, and waiting for us to discover it. Fact 22. The desert of ice. How penguins thrive in the coldest place on Earth. Antarctica isn't just cold, it's a frozen desert. The driest, windiest, and coldest place on Earth. And yet in this wasteland of ice, one animal stands proudly. The penguin. At first glance, they seem almost too fragile for such a brutal world. But penguins are master survivors. Their bodies are wrapped in layers, dense feathers, waterproof skin, and a thick coat of insulating fat that keeps them warm even in blizzards. The emperor penguin takes that survival to another level. When winter hits, temperatures drop below -60 degrees Celsius, and the wind howls across the ice. But instead of fleeing, these birds gather together in massive huddles, thousands strong. They press close, sharing warmth in perfect synchronization. Those on the outside slowly move inward, and those in the middle take turns facing the cold. It's nature's most heartwarming teamwork. They even raise their young in the middle of all this. Males stand for weeks balancing eggs on their feet, keeping them warm with a flap of skin while the females hunt at sea. They eat nothing during that time, just wait, still and loyal, in the dark Antarctic winter. It's strange, isn't it? In a place where almost nothing can live, these birds don't just survive, they thrive. They dive deeper than any other bird, swim faster than most fish, and live where logic says life shouldn't exist at all. The desert of ice may look empty, but beneath the snow, beneath the storms, it's alive with the soft sound of penguin calls, proof that even in the harshest world warmth can come from one another. Fact 23. Arctic foxes and the art of energy conservation. In the endless white of the Arctic, where temperatures can plunge below -50, every heartbeat counts, and no animal knows that better than the Arctic fox. It's small, light, and looks almost delicate, a snowball with legs and bright blue eyes. But don't be fooled. This little hunter is a master of energy conservation, surviving in conditions that would freeze almost any other creature. Its secret starts with its coat, one of the thickest in the animal kingdom. It changes colour with the seasons, pure white in winter, brown in summer. The fur traps heat so well that when an Arctic fox curls into a ball, it loses almost no body warmth at all. Then there's its metabolism. The Arctic fox can slow itself down, burning as little energy as possible when food is scarce. It eats anything: lemmings, fish, berries, even scraps left behind by polar bears. And when times get really hard, it caches food under the snow, saving it for later. But what's most remarkable is its instinct for movement. Arctic foxes can travel thousands of kilometres across sea ice in search of food, navigating storms and darkness with ease. One fox tracked by scientists once journeyed from Norway to Canada, more than 3,000 kilometres, across the frozen ocean. It's quiet, clever, and endlessly resourceful. In a world where energy is everything, the Arctic fox proves that survival isn't always about strength. Sometimes it's about perfect timing, patience, and knowing when to move. Fact 24. The polar bear's paradox. Hunting on a melting world. The polar bear is one of nature's most iconic survivors, built for ice, solitude, and endless cold. But now the very world it depends on is melting beneath its paws. Polar bears live by hunting seals on the sea ice. They wait by breathing holes, still as statues, for hours, sometimes days, until a seal surfaces for air. It's a game of endurance and silence, but as the ice melts earlier each year, those hunting grounds vanish. The bears are forced to swim farther, fast longer, and search harder for food. This is the paradox of the polar bear. It's one of the most perfectly adapted creatures on Earth, and yet it's running out of the environment it evolved for. Its thick fur, black skin, and insulating fat make it a living furnace in freezing weather. But now, with rising temperatures and thinning ice, that very adaptation turns against it. The bears overheat. They starve. Some are seen wandering far inland, searching through human waste, the last place a king of ice should ever be. Still, the story isn't just tragic. It's a call for attention. Polar bears are not just symbols of the Arctic, they're warnings from the top of the world, reminders of how connected everything is. When the ice breaks, the ocean changes. When the ocean changes, the planet changes. And in the middle of it all, one great white bear keeps walking, strong, silent, and waiting for the ice to return. Fact 25. Seals that sleep under ice. Imagine needing to take a nap, but if you stay asleep too long, you could drown. That's life for the seals of the Arctic and Antarctic, who spend much of their lives under thick sheets of ice. Seals are marine mammals, which means they need to breathe air, but they can hold their breath for astonishingly long times, sometimes over an hour. When it's time to rest, they do something extraordinary. They sleep underwater, coming up just enough to breathe before drifting back down. They memorize where breathing holes are, using them like doors to the surface. In some cases, they even chew through thin ice with their teeth to make new ones. Weddell seals, for example, keep multiple breathing holes open in case one freezes shut. Their bodies are built for it. Lungs that collapse safely under pressure, hearts that slow down to conserve oxygen, and blood rich in myoglobin, a protein that stores oxygen like a battery. Under the ice, the world is quiet. The light filters through in blue and silver, and seals float peacefully, wrapped in cold silence. To them, it's home, safe from predators, hidden from storms. It's strange and beautiful to think that even sleep, something so simple and human, becomes a test of endurance in these places. But seals have mastered it. The art of resting in a frozen world, where even dreams must learn to breathe. Fact 26. The last algae, the base of polar life. At the edge of the frozen world, where the sun barely rises and the wind slices through everything, life still begins with something small. Algae. These microscopic plants are the foundation of nearly every polar food chain. They might not look like much, but without them, penguins wouldn't waddle, seals wouldn't hunt, and whales wouldn't sing. What's incredible is where they live. Some cling to the underside of sea ice, turning it green and gold when sunlight finally filters through. Others drift just beneath the surface, waiting for that brief polar summer when the light returns. For a few months each year, the ice melts slightly, releasing nutrients and sunlight, and the algae bloom in sudden brilliant explosions of life. Krill swarm to feed on them. Fish eat the krill. Seals, whales, and penguins follow. It's a fragile yet powerful chain. All powered by these invisible beings, but there's a problem. As the poles warm and the ice melts earlier, the timing of these algae blooms shifts. The krill might hatch too soon or too late, missing their feast entirely. And when the base of the food chain falters, everything above it trembles. Still, the resilience of these algae is astonishing. Some survive being frozen solid for months, then thaw out and start photosynthesizing again as if nothing happened. Others rest in the dark for years, waiting patiently for light that might never come. They are the quiet architects of life in a place that should be barren. The last algae remind us that even in the coldest corners of the earth, life doesn't just endure, it engineers survival. Fact 27. Migrating through extremes. Birds that cross the poles. Every year, millions of birds take off on a journey that seems almost impossible, travelling from one end of the earth to the other. These are the great migrators, the masters of extremes. Take the Arctic tern, for example. This tiny bird makes the longest migration known to science, from the Arctic to Antarctica and back again, a round trip of more than 70,000 kilometres every year. That means it sees more daylight than any other creature on the planet. Imagine spending half your life chasing summer, crossing oceans, storms and ice fields just to stay in the light. That's exactly what the Arctic tern does. It glides on polar winds, dives for fish in icy waters, and rests on the open sea when land is too far away. Then there are the snow petrels, who live almost their entire lives around Antarctica, nesting in frozen cliffs where temperatures can drop below -40 degrees. They defy logic, raising chicks in places that seem uninhabitable. Migration in these extremes is a balancing act between endurance and instinct. Birds read the stars, sense magnetic fields, and ride jet streams they cannot see. Some die along the way, but the journey continues, generation after generation. It's humbling to think that these tiny wings connect both ends of the planet, from the Arctic's summer sun to the Antarctic's endless day. In a way, they're not just travelling birds, they're living bridges, linking the world's coldest, loneliest places in one eternal loop of motion. Fact 28. The human outposts of Antarctica. It's strange to think that in one of the most unlivable places on Earth, there are people, real people, living and working year-round. Welcome to the human outposts of Antarctica, where science meets survival. There are around 70 research stations scattered across the continent, run by countries from all over the world: the United States, Russia, Chile, Japan, and many more. Some, like McMurdo Station, are almost small towns, complete with gyms, libraries, and even coffee bars. Others are little more than metal huts buried in snow. Life here runs on routine. There's no night in summer, no day in winter, just endless light or endless darkness. Supplies come in by plane or ship, but only during short weather windows. Once winter sets in, you're cut off from the world for months. The people who live here aren't just adventurers. They're scientists studying climate change, glaciology, space weather, and microbial life. They measure ice cores that hold secrets of Earth's past and search for patterns that might predict its future. But daily life isn't all science and discovery. There's also loneliness, isolation, and the mental weight of being surrounded by nothing but white. Crew members hold movie nights, celebrate holidays, and sometimes even organise marathons around the station to stay sane. Still, every person who's lived in Antarctica says the same thing: there's nowhere else like it. The silence, the stars, the surreal beauty, it changes you. Humanity came here not to conquer, but to learn. And somehow, in this land of ice, we found both knowledge and humility. Fact 29. Frozen microbes. Time. Capsules of ancient life. Hidden inside ice cores pulled from glaciers are frozen microbes. Tiny, ancient organisms that have been trapped for thousands, sometimes millions of years. They're like nature's time capsules, perfectly preserved in layers of snow turned to ice. When scientists melt these cores in the lab, they sometimes find the microbes still alive, or at least capable of coming back to life. Imagine something frozen since the time of mammoths suddenly moving again under a microscope. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real. These microbes tell stories about Earth's past. Each layer of ice holds air bubbles, dust, and biological traces from a specific time in history. By studying them, scientists can track how the planet's atmosphere, temperature, and ecosystems have changed. But there's a deeper question. What happens when these ancient organisms wake up? As glaciers melt due to global warming, old bacteria and viruses might re-emerge. Most are harmless, but some could be unknown to modern science. Still, beyond the fear lies wonder. These frozen microbes prove that life can endure unthinkable conditions. Radiation, freezing, starvation, isolation. They might even help us understand how life could survive elsewhere, on frozen worlds like Mars or Europa. Each tiny cell, sealed in ice for millennia, carries not just survival, but memory, a record of the planet before us, waiting to whisper what it once was. Fact 30. The quest to find life beneath Europa's ice, far beyond our blue planet orbiting Jupiter, lies a moon named Europa, a world encased in ice, glowing softly in reflected sunlight. For decades, scientists have wondered, could something be alive beneath that frozen crust? Europa's surface is solid ice, crisscrossed with cracks that look like veins, but beneath it there's strong evidence of a vast subsurface ocean, more water than all of Earth's seas combined. It's kept liquid by tidal forces from Jupiter's immense gravity, which warms Europa's core. If heat and water are both there, then the ingredients for life might be too. Maybe not whales or fish, but tiny microbial life, similar to what survives around Earth's hydrothermal vents or Antarctica's buried lakes. The dream of finding that life drives some of the boldest missions in space exploration. NASA's Europa Clipper, set to launch soon, will orbit the Moon, scanning for signs of organic molecules and possible plumes of water bursting through the ice. If even a single microbe is found, it would change everything. It would mean life isn't rare, it's resilient. It can exist in the dark, the cold, and the unknown. For now, we can only imagine a world beneath the ice, silent but alive, with alien microbes drifting in the glow of volcanic vents. And maybe someday, when we finally break through that frozen ceiling, we'll find out that Earth was never truly alone. Fact 31. Heat that kills. Life in desert wastelands. There are places on Earth where the ground burns your feet, the air trembles with heat, and the horizon wavers like a mirage. It's the kind of heat that kills, yet somehow life still survives there. Welcome to the desert wastelands, home to some of the toughest creatures on the planet. In deserts like the Sahara or the Atacama, temperatures can soar above 50 degrees Celsius during the day and plunge to freezing at night. Rain might not fall for years. Water, the essence of life, is almost non-existent, and still, the desert is alive. Tiny beetles scuttle under rocks to escape the sun, snakes burrow deep into cool sand, birds glide high above the dunes, their wings catching invisible thermals of hot air. Every creature here has learned a trick to stay alive in the furnace. Plants, too, have their own secrets. Cacti store water in their flesh. Their spines aren't just for defense. They provide shade and slow down evaporation. Even microscopic life hides in desert soil, waiting for the rare moment when rain returns. When it does, the desert explodes with colour. Flowers bloom, insects emerge, and everything comes to life for a brief miraculous season. But for most of the year, this world looks empty, lifeless, silent. Yet that's the beauty of it. Life doesn't disappear here, it just waits. It pauses. It endures. The desert teaches us something profound. Survival isn't about constant motion or abundance. Sometimes it's about stillness, conserving energy, hiding from the heat, and knowing exactly when to wake up again. So when you look out at those endless dunes and see nothing, remember, you're looking at a masterpiece of adaptation, a world where life learned to live with almost nothing, and still, somehow, to thrive. Fact 32. The Sahara's hidden oases of life. From the air, the Sahara looks endless, a sea of gold stretching from horizon to horizon. But scattered through that desert are rare miracles, oases, small green worlds surrounded by deathly heat. An oasis isn't just a pool of water, it's an entire ecosystem. Palm trees, grasses, frogs, birds, and people all depend on it. Most oases form where underground water rises to the surface, or where ancient aquifers still flow beneath the sand. In these places, the desert suddenly softens. The air cools, the wind carries the smell of life, and you can hear the buzz of insects and the rustle of leaves. It feels almost magical, but it's all the result of deep natural balance. Animals migrate across the dunes just to reach these spots. Birds stop here to rest during long flights. Humans have built civilizations around them. Ancient trade routes and cities like Siwa and Timbuktu survived because of oases. They were lifelines, where travellers could drink, rest and dream. But oases are fragile. When too much water is drawn from them, or when shifting sands bury their sources, they disappear, and with them goes an entire network of life. Still, even today some remain hidden, pockets of green seen only by nomads or explorers. They remind us that even in a place as harsh as the Sahara, nature leaves small doors open, tiny, breathing worlds where life refuses to give up. Fact 33. Survival without water, the secret of the Namib beetle. In the foggy sands of Namibia lives one of the most extraordinary survivors on Earth, the Namib desert beetle. It lives in a place so dry it almost never rains, yet it's managed to solve the puzzle of living without water. How? By drinking the air itself. Every morning, when cold ocean fog rolls inland, the beetle climbs to the top of a dune and lifts its body to face the breeze. Tiny bumps on its back catch the droplets of moisture from the fog. The water collects, rolls down its shell and drips straight into its mouth. It's such a simple trick, but it's pure genius. While other creatures dig for dew or chase rare rain, the Namib beetle just stands still, waiting for the air to feed it. Scientists have studied this insect for years, trying to copy its design. Its water-harvesting shell has inspired new materials for collecting drinking water in deserts and drought-prone regions around the world. And it's not alone. In deserts everywhere, creatures have developed strange, beautiful ways to survive. From lizards that store water in their bladders to plants that trap fog in their spines. The Namib beetle, though, stands as a perfect symbol of desert wisdom. Sometimes the smartest way to live is the simplest one. You don't fight the environment, you work with it. Fact 34. Plants that drink the air. Fog catchers of the desert. In the world's driest deserts, where rain is just a rumour, some plants have learned to drink the air. They catch fog, pull moisture from mist and turn vapour into life. One of the best examples comes from the coasts of Chile and Peru, where the Atacama Desert meets the Pacific Ocean. Here, plants like the tillandsia, also called air plants, grow without roots in the ground. They spread their leaves wide to trap fog droplets, absorbing water directly through their surfaces. On foggy mornings you can see them glistening, every leaf covered in tiny beads of life. As the sun rises, that moisture slowly seeps into their tissues, enough to survive another blazing day. Humans have even learned from these plants. In parts of the Atacama, engineers build fog nets, giant mesh panels that collect water from the mist, dripping it into tanks for villages below. Nature's fog catchers became blueprints for human survival. In a way, these plants are quiet magicians. They take something invisible, air, and turn it into something vital. They remind us that survival doesn't always mean strength or speed. Sometimes it's about awareness, sensing what others miss, and turning the smallest gift of nature into enough. In a land where the rain may not fall for 100 years, that's nothing short of a miracle. Fact 35. Camels, masters of desert adaptation. When people think of desert survival, one creature always comes to mind: the camel. Strong, stubborn, and almost impossible to kill, camels are the living tanks of the desert, perfectly engineered by evolution to outlast the heat, the thirst, and the endless sand. Let's start with that famous hump. No, it doesn't store water, it stores fat. That fat can be broken down into energy, and even small amounts of water when food is scarce. It's like carrying your own survival kit on your back. Camels can go for weeks without drinking, lose up to a quarter of their body weight, and still keep walking. Their blood cells are oval-shaped, which helps them flow easily even when dehydrated. Their noses trap moisture from each breath, recycling it back into their bodies, and their design is pure brilliance. Long eyelashes and closing nostrils keep out sand. Thick, leathery pads protect their feet from scorching dunes. When they finally find water, They can drink up to 100 litres in minutes, then walk away as if nothing happened. For centuries, camels have carried humans and supplies across deserts, connecting civilizations that would otherwise have been isolated. They've been called the ships of the desert, and rightfully so. Camels remind us that survival isn't just about toughness, it's about adaptation. They don't fight the desert, they move with it, slow, steady, patient. In a place that breaks everything else, they just keep going, one soft step at a time through the heat that kills. Fact 36. The sleeping seeds, plants, waiting for rain. In the heart of the desert, where the soil cracks and the sun scorches everything it touches, lies a secret that only patience can reveal. Beneath that lifeless sand are sleeping seeds, tiny capsules of hope, waiting years, even decades, for a single drop of rain. Desert plants like the resurrection bush or desert lupine survive through a kind of suspended animation. Their seeds don't sprout right away. They wait. They endure heat, wind, and time itself, locked in a protective shell that keeps them alive when everything else dies. Then one day, clouds gather, rain falls, and suddenly, the desert transforms. Within hours, dry plains burst into fields of colour. Flowers bloom, bees appear, and the air smells alive again. It's one of nature's most dramatic miracles, life reborn from dust. When the moisture fades, the plants quickly scatter new seeds, each one ready to sleep again until the next rare storm. It's a perfect rhythm of survival, not constant but cyclical, built on the desert's unpredictable generosity. The sleeping seeds teach us something profound. Survival doesn't always mean resisting the environment. Sometimes it means trusting it, knowing that one day the world will change and being ready when it does. Fact 37. Sand that burns. The physics of desert heat. If you've ever stepped barefoot on hot sand, you know the feeling. A sharp, searing pain that forces you to move fast. But in deserts, that heat is far beyond what most of us can imagine. Some dunes reach surface temperatures over 70 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cook food, burn skin, or melt rubber soles. So why does sand get so hot? The answer lies in physics. Sand is made of tiny quartz grains that absorb sunlight quickly, but don't hold heat for long. Since deserts have almost no vegetation to block the sun, every grain soaks up radiation directly. The result is a surface that heats up in seconds and cools just as fast when night falls. That's why desert life happens in cycles. Creatures hide during the day, emerging only when the sand cools. Reptiles burrow deep underground where the temperature stays stable. Some insects have reflective shells that bounce sunlight away. Even the shimmering mirages you see above dunes are part of this phenomenon. The blazing sand heats the air above it, bending light and creating illusions of water. In short, desert heat isn't just brutal, it's beautiful in its precision. Every ripple of sand, every wave of air follows a pattern written by the sun itself. Fact 38. The hottest place on Earth, Dalol, Ethiopia. Imagine a place where the ground boils, the air stings your lungs, and acid pools shimmer in impossible colours. Welcome to Dalol in Ethiopia's Danakil Depression, officially one of the hottest and most hostile places on Earth. Here, the average yearly temperature stays around 35 degrees Celsius, and in the hottest months, it can soar past 50. But it's not just the heat that makes Dalol extreme, it's the chemistry. The ground is filled with bubbling hot springs, sulfur fumes, and neon-coloured salt lakes. The water here is so acidic it can dissolve metal. Geysers spurt toxic gas. The air itself feels heavy and alien, and yet, even here, life exists. Scientists have discovered acid-loving microbes clinging to life in the steaming pools, proving that biology can survive in conditions almost identical to those on early Earth, or even Mars. Dalol is a living laboratory for astrobiologists, showing how life might endure beyond our planet. Standing there, surrounded by yellow sulfur mounds and steaming vents, you feel as if you've stepped into another world, one that glows, breathes, and burns. It's a reminder that Earth still hides corners so extreme they defy belief, places where life whispers through fire. Fact 39. Humans of the desert, Bedouins and Bushmen. Deserts are often seen as empty, lifeless places, but for thousands of years humans have called them home. The Bedouins of Arabia and the Bushmen of southern Africa are two of the greatest examples of people who learned to live where others would die. The Bedouins roam vast sand seas like the Rub al-Khali, moving with their camels from one hidden well to another. They read the desert like a book, the shape of dunes, the pattern of stars, the direction of wind. Their tents, made of goat hair, breathe in heat and resist storms. Hospitality is sacred here. In a land of scarcity, sharing is survival. Far to the south, the Bushmen, or Sand People, live in the Kalahari. They've mastered the art of finding water in roots, tracking animals across endless plains, and surviving with almost nothing. Their knowledge of plants and the rhythms of the land is ancient, passed through stories and songs. Both peoples understand something most of us have forgotten. To live in the desert, you must listen to it. Move when it allows, rest when it demands. They don't conquer the desert. They belong to it. In a world that often praises speed and abundance, the Bedouins and Bushmen remind us that true wisdom lies in harmony, in knowing when to walk, when to wait, and when to trust the silence of the sands. Fact 40. The sound of survival. How desert animals avoid death by heat. Silence in the desert isn't emptiness, it's strategy. When temperatures rise, even sound seems to vanish. The birds stop singing, insects fall quiet, and everything retreats into shadow. But beneath the surface, the desert is alive with whispers of survival. Take the fennec fox with its oversized ears. They aren't just for hearing, they're built to release heat. Lizards flatten themselves against cool rocks to absorb just enough warmth to move. Snakes slide silently across the dunes, leaving trails like brush strokes. Some animals have turned stillness into art. The kangaroo rat spends its days in underground burrows, sealing its entrance to trap moisture. When it finally ventures out at night, it moves in silence, collecting seeds under the stars. Even insects play their part. The darkling beetle lifts its body toward the cool night sky, letting condensation gather and roll into its mouth. A quiet ritual of survival. In the desert, every sound matters because it costs energy. A creature that makes noise risks losing water or attracting a predator. So silence becomes the ultimate adaptation, a language of restraint and precision. The desert teaches its inhabitants a single truth. In a world ruled by heat, the ones who survive are not the loudest, but the quietest. Fact 41. Mountains that touch the sky. Life in thin air. There's something both breathtaking and terrifying about standing on a mountain so high that the clouds drift below you. The air feels sharp, the world looks endless, and every breath becomes an effort. Yet somehow, life still finds a way up here. Mountains are some of the harshest environments on Earth. Temperatures drop without warning, oxygen thins out, and storms can appear in seconds. But look closely, and you'll see that even in this thin, freezing air, life clings to the rocks. Tiny mosses, lichens, and alpine flowers grow in cracks where a little sunlight and moisture gather. Mountain goats and ibex leap effortlessly between cliffs that would terrify most creatures. Birds like the bar-headed goose fly over the Himalayas, higher than any other bird on Earth. What's their secret? Adaptation. Every living thing up here has changed over generations to handle less oxygen, less warmth, and more danger. Their blood carries more hemoglobin, their lungs are bigger, and their hearts beat faster. To us, these heights seem impossible, but to the creatures who live here, it's simply home, a reminder that nature's reach goes higher than we ever thought possible. Fact 42. The Himalayan snow leopard, phantom of the peaks. If the mountains had a ghost, it would be the snow leopard, silent, unseen, and almost unreal. It moves across the Himalayan cliffs like a shadow, blending perfectly into the snow and rock. For centuries, locals rarely saw it, only its paw prints, and called it the mountain spirit. Snow leopards live at altitudes where humans struggle to breathe. Their lungs are massive, their fur thick and smoky grey, and their long tails act like blankets in the cold. Every muscle is built for stealth. They can leap 6 times their body length to ambush prey. But life up here isn't easy. Food is scarce. The snow leopard hunts blue sheep, ibex, and mountain hares, surviving on patience and precision. It may travel miles for a single meal. Even now, with camera traps and modern tracking, this animal remains a mystery. It's both fierce and fragile. endangered by poaching and habitat loss. Still, it endures, ruling a world of rock and ice with quiet grace. The snow leopard is proof that even in the most silent corners of the earth, beauty hides, not to be seen often, but to remind us that wildness still breathes somewhere above the clouds. Fact 43. Oxygen deprivation, the science of altitude. Survival. Climb high enough, and you'll start to feel it. The dizziness, the heavy chest, the way your thoughts slow down. That's hypoxia, the body's reaction to low oxygen at high altitude. At the top of Mount Everest, there's only about 1/3 of the oxygen available at sea level. Most people wouldn't last long without help, but nature has been experimenting with altitude for ages. Animals like yaks, snow leopards, and even certain birds have blood rich in hemoglobin that binds oxygen more efficiently. Their hearts pump harder, and their cells burn energy more slowly. Humans too can adapt, given time. Climbers spend days or weeks acclimatizing, letting their bodies adjust by producing more red blood cells. But people who live in high mountains year-round, like the Sherpas of Nepal or the Andean Quechua, have evolved deeper changes. Larger lungs, stronger hearts, and an uncanny ability to stay calm even when oxygen is scarce. It's a humbling reminder that survival isn't about strength alone. It's about how the body and the mind learn to move in rhythm with the impossible. Fact 44. The yaks of Tibet. Cold, wind, and thin air. Few creatures embody mountain survival like the yak. Standing broad and shaggy against the wind, it looks like a relic from the Ice Age, and in many ways it is. High on the Tibetan plateau, where temperatures drop below freezing and oxygen levels are half what they are at sea level, yaks thrive. Their long hair traps heat like insulation, and a thick layer of fat keeps their bodies warm even in storms. They have larger hearts and lungs than cattle, and their blood carries oxygen with remarkable efficiency. For centuries, yaks have been lifelines for humans too, carrying loads, providing milk, meat and warmth. Tibetan nomads say that without the yak there would be no life on the plateau. Even their dung fuels fires where no trees grow. But what's most fascinating is how peaceful they seem amid such hardship. Slow, deliberate and unbothered by thin air or freezing winds, the yak is a symbol of calm endurance. When the world turns harsh, the yak reminds us that survival doesn't have to look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet strength, steady breathing, and the patience to keep walking through the cold. Fact 45. Plants that bloom above the clouds. High above the tree line, where the air thins and frost bites every morning, you'd think no flower could survive. But then you see it. A splash of colour among the grey rocks, a tiny alpine blossom, trembling in the wind yet glowing with life. Mountain plants are some of the most resilient organisms on Earth. They've learned to make the most of every drop of sunlight, growing small and low to avoid the cold. Some, like Edelweiss, have woolly leaves that trap warmth. Others bloom in a single burst during the short summer, producing seeds before snow returns. Their roots dig deep into cracks to find hidden water, while their petals reflect ultraviolet light, a trick that helps attract the few insects brave enough to fly this high. It's a quiet miracle, really. Flowers that bloom where even trees give up. Above the clouds, in thin air and endless silence, these plants carry out their fragile lives with quiet defiance. They remind us that beauty isn't about comfort, it's about persistence. Even on the edge of the world, life still finds a way to bloom. Fact 46. The Andean people. Living at the edge of breath high in the Andes, where clouds brush against the peaks and the air feels thinner than a whisper, people live where most of us would struggle to take 10 steps. The Andean people have called these heights home for thousands of years, villages perched above 4,000 meters, surrounded by snow and silence. For outsiders, the first few hours here bring headaches and dizziness, symptoms of altitude sickness. But for the Andean people, it's simply life as usual. Their bodies have adapted in ways science still finds astonishing. Their blood holds more hemoglobin, their lungs are larger, and their hearts pump efficiently even with less oxygen. They farm potatoes and quinoa on steep terraces carved into the mountainsides, tend to llamas and alpacas, and celebrate festivals that honour Pachamama, the Earth Mother, and for every harvest. In this thin air, survival has always depended on balance, between humans and nature, life and hardship, hope and humility. When the wind sweeps down from the glaciers, carrying the scent of cold and soil, it feels like a reminder. that life, no matter how fragile, can make a home even on the edge of breath. Fact 47. Volcano slopes. Where ash turns to soil. It sounds like a contradiction. Volcanoes destroy everything in their path, yet their ashes create some of the richest soil on Earth. Life, somehow, grows out of fire. When a volcano erupts, it spews molten rock, ash, and minerals across the land. At first, it's devastation. Forests burn, rivers choke, and the sky darkens. But give it time, and something miraculous happens. The ash breaks down, releasing nutrients like phosphorus and potassium. Rain mixes with the minerals, and the ground becomes fertile again. That's why places like Mount Etna in Italy, or Mount Fuji in Japan have thriving farms around them. Crops like coffee, grapes, and rice grow in soil born from ancient eruptions. Even mosses and lichens are the first to colonize cooled lava, slowly turning black rock into life. It's a reminder that destruction and creation are two sides of the same coin. Volcanoes may burn the world clean, but from their ashes new ecosystems rise, lush, green, and more alive than ever. Fact 48. Glacial valleys and the microbes. Within beneath the silent majesty of glaciers, hidden from sunlight for centuries, life stirs, invisible and ancient. Glacial valleys may seem frozen and lifeless, but within the ice are microbes that have survived for tens of thousands of years. These microscopic survivors live in thin films of salty water between ice crystals, feeding on minerals, carbon, and even traces of dust trapped long ago. Some scientists believe they represent what life on Mars might look like: small, cold, and persistent. When glaciers melt, these microbes flow into rivers, carrying their ancient DNA into modern ecosystems. They help recycle nutrients, feed other microorganisms, and remind us that even in frozen silence, Earth is never truly still. Each melting glacier is a time capsule, a glimpse into what life was like long before humans appeared. The more we study them, the clearer it becomes. Life doesn't just adapt to change, sometimes it sleeps through it, waiting for the next thaw. Fact 49. The mountains of fire, life on volcanic peaks. The phrase mountains of fire sounds like something out of myth, but on Earth, it's real. Volcanoes tower across the world, from the Andes to the Pacific Ring, and even here, where lava once flowed and the air smells of sulfur, life has claimed its place. On volcanic slopes, you'll find hardy mosses and ferns growing in the cracks between cooled rocks. In geothermal vents, thermophilic bacteria thrive in boiling mud, feeding on minerals. Birds nest near steam vents for warmth. Even some animals, as like the Galapagos iguanas, rely on volcanic heat to survive. These peaks remind us that fire doesn't just destroy, it shapes. The minerals released from magma enrich the soil. Rain mixes with volcanic ash to create fertile valleys. Every eruption, no matter how violent, eventually gives way to renewal. To stand on a volcano is to feel both fear and awe. Fear of its power, and awe at nature's endless ability to turn chaos into life. Fact 50. Solar radiation, the invisible threat at high altitudes. Up here, closer to the sun, the air feels cleaner, but it's also more dangerous. At high altitudes, solar radiation becomes an invisible threat. The atmosphere thins, filtering less ultraviolet light, and what feels like a gentle sunburn can actually be skin damage in minutes. For mountain dwellers, climbers, and animals alike, this radiation shapes everything. Plants at high altitudes often grow thick, waxy leaves or produce special pigments to block UV rays. Some flowers even have ultraviolet patterns to protect their reproductive parts. Humans adapt in simpler ways: darker skin tones, protective clothing, or simply staying in shade when the sun peaks. Birds and mammals have thicker fur or feathers that reflect sunlight. It's strange to think that something as beautiful as sunlight can also be a threat. But in these thin air regions, survival means respecting what you can't see. Every life form here carries a defense against the sky itself, a silent shield that keeps them alive beneath the brilliance of the sun. Fact 51. The toxic worlds. Lakes of poison and life within. At first glance, some lakes look like portals to another world, green, red or yellow waters that bubble and hiss, surrounded by steam and the smell of sulfur. Most of us would never imagine life could exist there, and yet it does. These are toxic lakes. places filled with deadly chemicals like arsenic, methane, or sulfuric acid. A single drop of their water could burn skin or poison an animal. But hidden within these harsh environments are microbes that thrive where nothing else can. They're called extremophiles, and they don't just survive, they flourish. In acid lakes, they feed on metals. In saline ones, they use salt instead of water to balance their cells. To them, what we call poison is simply home. Scientists study these toxic worlds not just for their strangeness, but because they might hold clues to life beyond Earth. If organisms can live in boiling acid or arsenic-filled water, then maybe Mars or one of Jupiter's moons isn't so lifeless after all. So next time you see a steaming, colour-shifting lake, remember, it's not just chemistry, it's a hidden ecosystem, built on rules that rewrite everything we thought we knew about survival. Fact 52. Mono Lake, a salty, alkaline home for brine shrimp. In the eastern California desert, surrounded by silent mountains and ghostly tufa towers, lies Mono Lake, a place so salty and alkaline that it looks almost alien. Its waters are too harsh for fish, yet it's full of life. Here, brine shrimp and alkali flies thrive by the billions. They feed on microscopic algae that somehow endure the lake's caustic chemistry. Birds in turn feast on the shrimp and flies, making Mono Lake a critical rest stop for millions of migratory birds each year. The secret to this ecosystem lies in adaptation. The brine shrimp have evolved to handle the lake's high pH. Their bodies keep internal chemistry stable even as the water around them burns. The alkali flies even dive underwater to lay eggs, protected by tiny air bubbles like miniature scuba tanks. Mono Lake feels otherworldly, still, shimmering, and surreal. But its life is a masterclass in resilience. Even when the water levels drop or salt concentrations rise, the creatures adjust. In a world of poison, they've made a paradise. Fact 53. The Dead Sea. Not so dead. After all, the Dead Sea, a name that sounds final, empty, absolute. But despite its salt-heavy waters, this ancient lake between Israel and Jordan is far from lifeless. Its salt concentration is more than 9 times that of the ocean, which makes it impossible for fish to survive. Yet deep within its waters and mud, scientists have found halophilic bacteria and archaea, microorganisms that not only tolerate the salt but depend on it. Even in years when the lake's surface looks barren, microbial blooms form whenever fresh water from nearby springs seeps in. They create swirling patches of colour, a sign that life still stirs beneath the crystals. People have bathed in the Dead Sea for thousands of years, drawn by its healing minerals, but few realize that even here, where life seems impossible, evolution has carved out a niche. The Dead Sea is a misnomer. It's simply a world that belongs to a different kind of life. Fact 54. The boiling acid pools of Yellowstone walk through Yellowstone National Park, and you'll hear it before you see it. The hiss of steam, the burble of boiling mud, the metallic smell of sulfur. It feels like standing on a living planet, one that breathes fire beneath your feet. The pools here are acidic enough to dissolve metal and hot enough to cook food instantly. Yet when scientists looked closer, they found something astonishing. Colonies of acid-loving microbes, thriving where heat and acid meet. These tiny organisms, some discovered in places like the Grand Prismatic Spring, are the ancestors of enzymes used in modern DNA research. Without them, many medical and scientific breakthroughs wouldn't exist. The colours that swirl in Yellowstone's pools, the yellows, reds and greens, come from these microbial mats. Each hue represents a different type of life, each one tuned to a specific temperature and acidity level. Yellowstone's boiling waters remind us that what looks like hell to us might be heaven to something smaller, a microscopic paradise hidden in fire. Fact 55. Lake Natron, the red waters that preserve life like stone. In northern Tanzania, under the shadow of an active volcano, lies Lake Natron, a blood-red lake that looks almost supernatural. Its colour comes from salt-loving microbes that turn the water crimson as they feed. But what makes Natron truly unique is its chemistry. The lake's temperature can reach 60 degrees Celsius, and its pH is near that of ammonia, enough to burn skin. When animals accidentally fall in, the minerals coat them in a layer of salt and lime, preserving them as if turned to stone. Despite its deadly reputation, life thrives here. Flamingos nest along its shores, using the toxic water as protection from predators. Tiny algae and microbes colour the lake, feeding the insects and crustaceans that form the base of this eerie ecosystem. To outsiders, Lake Natron looks like death, a red mirror under a blazing sun. But for the flamingos, for the microbes, for life that has adapted to its poison, it's home. It's one of nature's greatest paradoxes. In a lake that can kill, beauty takes flight. Fact 56. Arsenic-based life, the microbial pioneers of poison. In most of Earth's ecosystems, arsenic is a deadly poison. It disrupts metabolism, damages DNA, and kills almost every known organism. But in a few rare places, like California's Mono Lake, scientists have found microbes that treat arsenic not as poison, but as nourishment. These bacteria use arsenic the way we use phosphorus, to build DNA and store energy. For decades, this was thought impossible. Then, researchers discovered that some microbes could survive and even reproduce in environments completely saturated with arsenic, replacing phosphorus in their biochemistry. It was one of the most controversial discoveries in microbiology. Some scientists debated whether arsenic truly replaced phosphorus or simply worked alongside it. But the larger point remained clear. Life can rewire its chemistry to survive what seems uninhabitable. If microbes can rewrite the basic rules of biology, then maybe life elsewhere in the universe doesn't need to look like us at all. These arsenic-based pioneers challenge the very definition of life, showing us that evolution's creativity has no boundaries, even in a world built from poison. Fact 57. Sulfur and survival. Microbes of the stinking springs. You can smell them before you see them. The sulfur springs. Their rotten egg stench fills the air, a sure sign that life has found a way to thrive in the unthinkable. In these boiling acidic pools, sulfur-eating microbes live off chemical reactions that would kill most other organisms. Instead of sunlight, they use sulfur and hydrogen gas to create energy, a process called chemosynthesis. The result is an entire ecosystem built on chemistry, not photosynthesis. From Yellowstone to volcanic vents in Italy, these microbes colour the ground in shades of yellow, green and orange, a vivid tapestry of extremophile life. Some of them breathe sulfur instead of oxygen. Others create acids so strong they can corrode metal. What's fascinating is that these same chemical processes might mirror the earliest forms of life on Earth, when our planet was a hot, sulphurous world filled with volcanic gas. The stinking springs are more than strange. They are windows into our ancient biological past, proof that life's first sparks may have smelled just like this. Fact 58. The miracle of adaptation. How enzymes evolve to extremes. Life at the edge isn't just about endurance, it's about molecular innovation. At the heart of every living cell are enzymes, the biological machines that drive chemical reactions. But in extreme environments, boiling water, crushing pressure, or acid baths, normal enzymes fall apart. Extremophiles have evolved special versions of these proteins, ones that can survive conditions that would destroy human enzymes in seconds. In the deep sea, their enzymes resist pressure. In volcanic pools, they resist heat. In Arctic ice, they stay flexible enough to function in freezing temperatures. Scientists call these extremozymes, and they're revolutionizing modern science. We use them in PCR machines for DNA testing, in detergents that clean at high heat, and even in industrial processes that once required toxic chemicals. Each extremophile, no matter how small, is a masterclass in molecular design, living proof that adaptation isn't just survival, it's evolution made visible. Life doesn't merely cope with change. It reshapes itself until the impossible becomes ordinary. Fact 59. Life on chemical energy. The chemosynthetic revolution. When scientists first found ecosystems thriving around hydrothermal vents in the deep ocean, they were stunned. There was no sunlight, no plants, no photosynthesis, and yet entire communities of creatures were alive and well. The secret was chemosynthesis, a process where microbes use chemical reactions, not light, to create energy. Instead of sunlight, they rely on hydrogen sulfide, methane, and other gases spewing from Earth's crust. These microbes form the base of the chemosynthetic food chain. Giant tube worms, blind crabs, and ghostly fish all depend on them. It's a self-contained world powered by geology instead of sunshine, a reminder that life doesn't need the sun to exist. This discovery changed everything. It proved that life could arise anywhere there's energy, water, and the right chemistry, even in the dark oceans of Europa or the methane lakes of Titan. The chemosynthetic revolution didn't just rewrite biology, it expanded the boundaries of where life itself might be found. Fact 60. The hidden colours of extremophiles. Pigments as protection. Look closely at a boiling hot spring, a salt flat, or a glacier, and you'll notice something beautiful: colour. Vivid reds, oranges, purples, and greens shimmer across the landscape, painting extreme environments with unexpected life. Those colours aren't decoration, they're defence mechanisms, pigments created by extremophiles to protect themselves. In high radiation zones, these pigments act like sunscreen, shielding DNA from damage. In hypersaline lakes, red carotenoids absorb excess light and prevent overheating. Even in deep-sea vents, some microbes use pigments to regulate their metabolism, controlling how they capture or reflect energy. These microscopic artists use chemistry to paint survival into their surroundings. For scientists, these pigments are more than a curiosity. They could help us detect life on other planets, since certain colours in alien landscapes might signal the presence of similar protective pigments. So when you see a pool glowing orange or a glacier streaked with red, remember, it's not lifeless colour, it's life itself, surviving by turning its environment into a canvas. Fact 61. The Caves of Darkness. Life without light. Step into a cave deep enough, and you enter another world. The air feels heavier, the silence hums, there's no sunlight. No colour, just endless blackness. And yet, life is here. In these lightless realms, evolution has rewritten the rules. Creatures adapt to total darkness by losing their eyes, growing longer antennae, and developing skin so sensitive it can see through touch and vibration. Bacteria feed on minerals instead of sunlight, and fungi draw nutrients from rock and water droplets that condense from the ceiling. Every droplet, every grain of sediment, becomes a home. From Mexico's Cueva de Villaluz to Slovenia's Postojna cave, ecosystems thrive entirely underground. Some species live their whole lives without ever seeing the sky. These organisms remind us that light isn't life's only fuel. In the quiet depths, evolution whispers, and life listens, reshaping itself to survive where the sun will never shine. Fact 62. Eyeless fish and transparent shrimp. Imagine being born into a world where light doesn't exist. You wouldn't need eyes, colour, or camouflage. That's the story of eyeless fish and transparent shrimp, masters of the underground world. Over thousands of years, trapped in isolated cave systems, these animals evolved into ghostly forms, pale, sightless, and perfectly adapted to darkness. Their energy no longer goes into maintaining vision but into enhancing other senses. They see through vibrations, pressure changes, and chemical cues in the water. In Mexico's cave rivers, the blind cavefish swims gracefully, guided by the faintest ripple. In Slovenia, glassy shrimp drift silently, their transparent bodies almost invisible in the dark. To us they may look fragile, but their survival is a triumph of adaptation. They show that when sight disappears, evolution sharpens everything else. Sometimes, losing one sense means gaining a whole new way to understand the world. Fact 63. Bacteria that eat rocks. Yes, you read that right. Bacteria that eat rocks. In the deepest caves and ocean crusts where sunlight and organic food never reach, microbes survive by doing something extraordinary. They feed on the minerals in stone. These lithotrophs, meaning rock eaters, extract energy by oxidizing iron, sulfur, or manganese. It's slow, patient work. They live in near-suspended animation, dividing maybe once every few decades. But over geological timescales, their influence is huge. They carve tiny tunnels in stone, form mineral crusts, and even help create cave formations like stalactites. Some scientists believe they may have played a role in shaping the early Earth, transforming lifeless rock into the first habitable environments. To most of us, a rock seems like the symbol of stillness. But to these microbes, it's dinner. Life, it seems, doesn't need sunlight, plants, or even organic matter, just chemistry and time. Fact 64. Sulfuric caves, nature's underground laboratories. There are caves, and then there are sulfuric caves, where acid drips from the ceiling and the walls fizz with chemical reactions. These places feel alien, like stepping into another planet. Inside, microbes feast on sulfur and hydrogen sulfide, producing sulfuric acid that slowly dissolves the surrounding rock. Over centuries, this process carves massive chambers lined with delicate crystal formations. One famous example is Mexico's Cueva de Villaluz, known for its ghostly white stalactites and toxic air. Despite the harshness, life thrives. Mats of bacteria coat the walls, forming the foundation for strange food webs. Some of these organisms can metabolize both oxygen and sulfur compounds, a biochemical flexibility that fascinates scientists studying potential extraterrestrial life. These caves are more than geological wonders. They're living laboratories, showing how biology and geology merge. In a sense, they prove that even destruction, acid, corrosion, decay, can create life's most hauntingly beautiful spaces. Fact 65. The world's deepest cave. Ecosystems. The deeper we go, the stranger life becomes. In the world's deepest caves, some plunging more than 2 kilometers underground, creatures survive under pressures and temperatures that test the limits of biology. Take Krubera Cave in Georgia or Chevet Cave in Mexico. Down there, light is a myth, and the air itself feels heavy with minerals. Yet life persists, bacteria clinging to rock walls, blind crustaceans swimming through underground lakes, and fungal colonies spreading silently through the dark. These ecosystems are isolated worlds, often untouched for millions of years. Studying them is like travelling back in time. Some microbes have genetic traces linking them to ancient lineages, living fossils preserved beneath the earth. Every expedition reveals new species and new forms of survival. The message is simple but powerful. Life doesn't retreat from the dark, it explores it. Even at the bottom of the world, surrounded by stone and silence, the story of life continues to unfold. Fact 66. The art of stillness. How cave life slows. Time. In the quiet darkness of a cave, time seems to pause. And for the creatures that live there, it almost does. Life underground moves at a different rhythm, slower, quieter, and more deliberate than anywhere else on Earth. Without sunlight, plants can't grow, and food becomes scarce, so cave organisms evolve in remarkable ways to survive on almost nothing. Their metabolisms slow down drastically. Some insects live for decades. Certain cave fish go months without eating. Even bacteria take centuries to form colonies that would grow in days on the surface. This is the art of stillness, survival by patience. Every heartbeat, every movement is measured because energy is precious. In a way, these species live closer to eternity than any of us. To scientists, they're models for longevity and adaptation. To the caves themselves, they're living symbols of balance. A reminder that sometimes the secret to survival isn't speed or strength, but silence and restraint. Fact 67. The bats that bring life to the depths. While most cave creatures stay deep in the shadows, bats live between two worlds, the surface and the subterranean, and every night when they return from hunting insects, they bring life with them. Bats are the lifelines of many cave ecosystems. Their droppings, known as guano, might sound unpleasant, but it's pure gold for underground life. Rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, it feeds fungi, bacteria, and countless insects. These in turn sustain spiders, beetles, and even blind salamanders. A single bat colony can support an entire underground food web, a self-sustaining world powered by what the bats leave behind. In some caves, layers of guano stretch meters deep, recording centuries of ecological history. So the next time you see bats fluttering out at dusk, think of them not as spooky creatures, but as caretakers of the underground, the ones who feed the darkness with the energy of the night. Fact 68. Hidden rivers and blind hunters. Beneath the ground, unseen rivers carve secret paths through stone. Their waters are black and cold, flowing through tunnels that never meet sunlight. But they're not empty. They're home to blind hunters, perfectly adapted to a world without vision. Blind catfish, pale eels, and translucent crustaceans navigate these hidden rivers with astonishing precision. They use vibrations and chemical cues to detect prey. Some can sense electric fields, others communicate through subtle pulses in the water. These underground rivers are fragile ecosystems, often isolated for millions of years. Their species evolve in complete isolation, turning each river system into a unique biological universe. For explorers who find them, the sight is unforgettable. A silent world of flowing black water, where every living thing moves with slow, perfect grace. Life here isn't abundant, but it's persistent, a quiet reminder that where water flows, life always finds a way to follow. Fact 69. The microbes of crystal caves. Deep under Mexico's Naka mine lies a place straight out of a dream, or perhaps another planet. The crystal cave of giants shimmers with translucent selenite crystals longer than a bus, and within this glowing labyrinth, scientists discovered something astonishing. Microbes trapped inside for tens of thousands of years. These tiny organisms were sealed within fluid pockets in the crystals, dormant but still alive. When revived in the lab, they began to grow again, proof that life can endure time itself. These microbes survive by metabolizing trace minerals and gases, enduring heat and darkness that would destroy most known life forms. To scientists, they offer a glimpse of how organisms might persist in the hidden oceans of Mars or the icy crust of Europa. The Naka microbes are living fossils, not of bones, but of endurance. They whisper a simple truth. In nature, beauty and resilience often share the same crystal walls. Fact 70. Human exploration of the underground biosphere. For centuries, caves were symbols of mystery and fear, dark places to avoid. But as explorers and scientists ventured deeper, they found something unexpected, life thriving in total darkness. Today, cave biology, or biospeleology, is one of the most fascinating frontiers of science. Researchers descend into narrow shafts, squeeze through tunnels, and dive into underground lakes to collect samples of creatures that have never been seen before. Some are new species, others may hold medical or technological secrets hidden in their biology. Cave microbes, for example, produce antibiotics and enzymes found nowhere else on Earth. Studying them could help us fight disease, understand evolution, and even guide the search for life beyond our planet. Human exploration of the underground biosphere is more than science. It's a dialogue between curiosity and survival. Each step into the dark expands our understanding of what life can be. And in the silence of those depths, humanity discovers something humbling. We've barely begun to know our own planet. Fact 71. The frozen tundra. Life in slow motion. The tundra looks empty at first, endless white, a frozen desert stretching to the horizon, but wait long enough and you'll see it breathe. Life here moves in slow motion, perfectly timed to the rhythm of the cold. Under the snow, mosses and lichens cling to the ground, surviving months of darkness and wind. Tiny insects freeze solid in winter, then thaw and crawl again when the brief summer sun returns. Arctic hares and lemmings dart through snow tunnels, hunted by foxes and owls that seem carved from ice. Every heartbeat, every step is measured. Food is scarce, warmth fleeting, and mistakes fatal. Yet the tundra endures, alive, but never in a hurry. It's a landscape built on patience, where survival depends on conserving every spark of energy. The tundra teaches one quiet lesson. Life doesn't rush to survive. It endures by slowing down. Fact 72. Permafrost and the return of ancient microbes. Beneath the tundra lies a time capsule, permafrost, soil that's been frozen for tens of thousands of years. And inside it, something remarkable stirs. Ancient microbes awakening after ages of sleep. Scientists drilling deep into Siberian ice have found bacteria and viruses that predate human civilization. Still viable, still capable of life. Some have been revived in the lab, dividing again after being frozen since the Ice Age. It's both fascinating and unsettling. On one hand, these microbes could teach us about Earth's ancient ecosystems and the origins of life. On the other, melting permafrost due to climate change might release organisms humanity has never encountered before. In these icy vaults, evolution has pressed pause. Each thaw reveals a whisper from the deep past, a reminder that life doesn't die easily. It waits. Fact 73. Arctic moss and the power of patience. In the Arctic, where the growing season lasts barely 8 weeks, mosses are the quiet heroes. They cover the tundra in carpets of green and gold, holding the soil together, storing water and feeding reindeer and birds. But their true power lies in patience. Mosses can freeze solid, dry out completely, and still spring back to life after decades, even centuries. Scientists have revived moss buried under glaciers for over 1,000 years, still alive after its long sleep. They grow slowly, cell by cell, thriving where almost nothing else can. And while they seem humble, they play a crucial role in the Arctic ecosystem, capturing carbon, preventing erosion, and offering shelter to countless insects and microorganisms. Arctic moss is a lesson in quiet endurance. In a world obsessed with speed, it proves that the slowest lives can sometimes last the longest. Fact 74. Wolves of the North, predators in a frozen desert. Few creatures embody wild endurance like the Arctic wolf. Living in one of the harshest environments on Earth, these predators roam across endless snowfields, where temperatures plunge far below freezing and prey is scarce. Unlike their southern cousins, Arctic wolves are smaller, stockier, and built for survival. Their fur grows thick enough to withstand the fiercest winds, and their paws spread wide to tread across snowdrifts like natural snowshoes. But it's not just physical strength that keeps them alive, it's cooperation. Wolves hunt in tightly bonded packs, communicating through subtle glances and howls that echo over the tundra. Together they can bring down muskoxen or caribou far larger than themselves. For months they may go hungry, wandering in silence, but when they find food, they share it. In the frozen desert, survival isn't about competition, it's about loyalty and trust. Fact 75. The caribou migration's endurance. Across ice and wind, every year, across the Arctic tundra, caribou begin one of the greatest migrations on Earth. Hundreds of thousands move together, covering thousands of kilometers through ice, rivers, and biting wind. They follow an ancient rhythm, chasing the brief bloom of summer grass. Calves are born during the journey, learning to walk within hours or risk being left behind. Wolves stalk from the shadows, rivers swell with melting ice, yet the herds keep moving. Their journey feeds entire ecosystems, predators, scavengers, and even people. Indigenous communities have followed these migrations for centuries, depending on them for food, clothing, and spirit. When seen from above, the caribou form dark rivers flowing across white plains, a moving heartbeat of the tundra. Their endurance is astonishing, a reminder that life's greatest strength isn't speed or power, but persistence through hardship. Fact 76. The Inuit Way. Human life, at 40 below. Imagine stepping outside and feeling the air bite your skin colder than any freezer. At 40 degrees below zero, metal sticks to flesh, breath turns to ice, and yet, people live, laugh, and thrive here. This is the world of the Inuit. For thousands of years, Inuit communities have adapted to life in the Arctic through knowledge, resilience, and deep respect for the land. They built igloos that trapped heat in frozen air, wore clothing made of layered animal skins, and navigated vast white landscapes by memory, stars, and wind. Food isn't grown here, it's hunted. Seal, whale, and fish provide the fat and protein needed to survive the endless winter. Fire is precious, warmth sacred, and community essential. Inuit life isn't about conquering the cold, it's about understanding it, living in rhythm with the ice, and passing on that wisdom through generations. When most would see emptiness, they see home. Fact 77. Fire and fat. How humans survive Arctic nights. In the Arctic, winter isn't a season, it's a command. The sun disappears for months, and the world becomes a silent sea of snow and shadow. Yet humans endure, thanks to two ancient allies, fire and fat. Fire gives warmth, light, and life. But wood is scarce in the frozen north, so Inuit and other Arctic peoples turn to oil lamps fueled by seal or whale fat, burning with a soft, steady flame. And fat, rich, dense, sustaining, became survival itself. In a land with few plants, animal fat provided not only energy but essential vitamins and insulation against the cold. Even today, traditional diets rich in omega fats keep Arctic peoples strong in extreme cold. Together, fire and fat are symbols of resilience, warmth drawn from the wild. They remind us that even in the darkest winter, life finds a way to keep burning. Fact 78. The shrinking tundra. Life at the edge of change. The Arctic tundra, once an endless expanse of ice and moss, is melting. The permafrost is thawing, the seasons shifting, and the line between tundra and forest is creeping northward. For the caribou, the wolves, the moss, and the microbes beneath the soil, the world is changing faster than ever. Lakes appear where ice once stood. New insects arrive with the warmth. Shrubs and trees invade land that was once treeless. Some species adapt, others vanish. Migratory birds lose breeding grounds. Hunters find ice too thin to cross. And the frozen soil, once a stable vault, begins releasing carbon into the air, feeding the very warmth that melts it. The tundra stands on the threshold, half ice, half earth, caught between eras. What was once eternal now feels fragile. The lesson is clear. When balance breaks, even the coldest places feel the heat. Fact 79. Snow algae, the pink life of the icy world. Walk across a glacier and you might see something strange. Pink snow. It looks like cotton candy scattered across the ice, but it's alive. That colour comes from snow algae, microscopic organisms that thrive in the freezing cold. When sunlight hits the ice, these tiny algae bloom, colouring the snow red, pink, or green. They survive by producing pigments that act like sunscreen, protecting them from ultraviolet light. In turn, those same pigments absorb more heat, causing the ice around them to melt faster. It's a strange paradox. The more they thrive, the faster their home disappears. Yet they persist, returning every summer like clockwork. Snow algae are reminders that even the coldest, whitest places are full of hidden colour. Life doesn't just survive in the cold, it paints it. Fact 80. What happens when the ice melts? When the ice melts, it doesn't just disappear, it releases stories. Trapped bubbles of air from ancient atmospheres, frozen mammoths, buried forests, and long-lost microbes all come back into the light. But the melting ice also changes everything. Oceans rise, weather patterns shift, entire species lose their homes. Polar bears wander farther, searching for ice that no longer forms. Indigenous communities watch hunting grounds turn to open water. And beneath the surface, permafrost releases carbon and methane, feeding a cycle of warming that accelerates itself. The world begins to reshape, not slowly, but in our lifetime. The melting ice is both a warning and a revelation. It reminds us how deeply connected we are to even the most distant frozen lands. When they change, we change too, because the world's coldest places have always been its most vital mirrors. Fact 81. Radiation zones. Life in places touched by disaster. When the air glows with invisible danger and the Geiger counter clicks like a heartbeat of fear, you'd think life would vanish. But in the world's radiation zones, from Chernobyl to Fukushima, life didn't die. It adapted. Radiation shatters DNA, burns cells, and warps the blueprint of life itself. Yet somehow, plants sprout, insects crawl, and birds sing in the silence left by humans. Mutations twist through generations, and new balances emerge in landscapes abandoned by people but claimed by nature. It's haunting and beautiful, a strange coexistence between death and resilience. In these places, life seems to whisper one message: we endure. Fact 82. Chernobyl. Nature's unexpected comeback. In the spring of 1986, Chernobyl became a word that meant catastrophe. The explosion at Reactor 4 poisoned the land, killed forests, and emptied towns. For years, the area was considered a wasteland. Lifeless, deadly, doomed. But today, the Chernobyl exclusion zone has become something no one expected. A sanctuary for wildlife. Wolves, bears, bison, lynx, and wild horses roam freely through the ghost villages. With humans gone, nature stepped back in. Radiation still lingers, mutating some creatures and shortening others' lives. But overall, life has returned with astonishing speed. The lesson is humbling. Sometimes the most destructive force isn't radiation, it's us. Fact 83. The fungus that eats radiation. Deep inside the ruined reactor at Chernobyl, scientists found something extraordinary. A black fungus that grows toward radiation. This fungus, rich in a pigment called melanin, doesn't just tolerate radiation, it feeds on it. The melanin captures ionizing energy and converts it into chemical energy, much like plants use sunlight for photosynthesis. In other words, it eats radiation. Researchers are now studying these fungi for potential use in space travel, to shield astronauts from cosmic rays or even generate energy in dark, high-radiation environments. It's a reminder that evolution doesn't stop, even in the most hostile corners of existence. Life not only survives, it innovates. Fact 84. Animals of the exclusion zone. When people fled Chernobyl, animals moved in. Wild horses gallop down cracked roads, foxes den in empty houses, and eagles perch on the skeletons of power lines. Without human interference, the ecosystem reinvented itself. Wolves now roam the forests in numbers higher than before the disaster. Boars, elk, and even rare lynx thrive among abandoned buildings and decaying amusement parks. Scientists have found that while radiation affects individual animals, causing tumours or genetic mutations, the overall populations remain stable or even flourish. The absence of people, it seems, matters more than the presence of radiation. Chernobyl became an unintended experiment, one that shows how quickly nature reclaims what humanity abandons. Fact 85. The microbes of nuclear reactors. Even inside the most radioactive environments on Earth, like the cooling pools of nuclear reactors, life finds a foothold. Scientists have discovered bacteria that can survive doses of radiation thousands of times higher than what would kill a human. Some of these microbes repair their own shattered DNA within hours. Others store energy from radiation or use metal ions as food. They form colourful biofilms on reactor walls, invisible colonies thriving in what should be sterile death. These tiny survivors are changing how we think about life's limits. If microbes can endure inside nuclear reactors, perhaps they can live beneath Mars' surface, or on moons bathed in cosmic rays. Radiation, once seen as the ultimate destroyer, becomes just another element of evolution's endless test. Life, it seems, refuses to bow, even to the atom. Fact T6. Mars on Earth. Testing. Life in radiation. Deserts. In the dry valleys of Antarctica, in the high deserts of Chile's Atacama, and in the volcanic plains of Iceland, scientists search for Earth's closest match to Mars. These are places where radiation burns from above, water is almost absent, and the soil is filled with toxic salts, conditions that mimic the red planet. And yet, even here, life clings on. Microbes hide under rocks, inside salt crystals, and within tiny cracks of stone. They survive by slowing metabolism to almost nothing, waiting for a trace of moisture or shadow to come. These Mars analog sites show that life doesn't always need comfort. It just needs a foothold. If it can live here, maybe it can live there. Fact 87. The evolution of resistance. How life adapts to DNA damage radiation breaks DNA, the very code of life. But through billions of years, evolution has written one of its greatest defenses: repair. Some bacteria, like Deinococcus radiodurans, can take thousands of times the radiation a human could endure, and rebuild themselves from the fragments. Their secret lies in unique enzymes and ring-shaped DNA structures that make reassembly fast and flawless. Radiation resistance didn't evolve in a single leap. It came from generations of stress, drought, oxidation, sunlight, and time. Each challenge honed life's ability to patch, adapt, and endure. It's not immortality, it's persistence, the quiet genius of evolution itself. Fact 88. The secret shield. Pigments that block cosmic rays. Across the microbial world, colour can mean survival. Black, red, orange, and even green pigments protect cells from deadly radiation. Melanin, the pigment found in both fungi and human skin, is one of nature's strongest shields. In high radiation zones like Chernobyl, melanin-rich microbes actually grow faster, using radiation as an energy source. Other pigments, like carotenoids and chlorophylls, absorb ultraviolet light and dissipate it safely as heat. To the human eye, these microbes look brilliant, but to nature, they are armoured soldiers against cosmic assault. In the end, colour isn't just beauty, it's survival written in light. Fact 89. Humans and radiation. Limits of our biology. Unlike microbes, humans are fragile under radiation. Our cells die, our DNA mutates, and our immune systems collapse long before we reach the levels that bacteria or fungi can tolerate. But even within those limits, our bodies fight back. Every day, natural background radiation hits our cells, and repair enzymes quietly fix the damage. We live surrounded by radiation and mostly never notice. The true danger comes from sudden, high doses, when repair can't keep up. That's the line between resilience and ruin, and it reminds us we may not be invincible, but our biology was never meant to live in fear, only to endure as best it can. Fact 90. Could life survive on Mars? Lessons from Earth's extremes. If Mars ever hosted life, it likely looked nothing like us. But thanks to Earth's extremophiles, the salt lovers, acid eaters, and radiation-resistant microbes, we know it's not impossible. Mars today is cold, dry, and bombarded by cosmic rays. But underground, protected from radiation and warmed by ancient heat, there could still be microbial sanctuaries, quiet, unseen, surviving against all odds. Every discovery of tough life on Earth makes Mars seem a little less empty, and if life did exist there, or still does, then the story of biology isn't confined to one planet. It's the universe itself whispering, where conditions allow, life will always try. Fact 91. The dry valleys of Antarctica, Earth's closest thing to Mars. If you ever wanted to walk on Mars without leaving Earth, head to Antarctica's McMurdo Dry Valleys. It's a place so cold, so dry, and so lifeless that even snow doesn't stay. It simply turns to vapor in the air. The wind howls through rocky canyons, stripping away everything soft or alive. No plants, no animals, just dust, stone, and frozen silence. And yet, under those stones, life hides. Microbes live in thin films of water that form when sunlight briefly warms the rock. They're slow, quiet, and ancient. Maybe the closest thing Earth has to Martian life. NASA scientists come here every year, wearing spacesuits, testing rovers, and studying these hidden microbes. Because if life can survive here, in a place where almost nothing moves, it could survive beneath the red dust of Mars too. Sometimes the most alien landscapes on Earth don't need to be imagined. They're already here, whispering the secrets of survival across two worlds. Fact 92. The Atacama Desert, the place too dry for life. Almost in northern Chile lies the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth. Some parts haven't seen real rain in centuries. The ground is so salty, it cracks like shattered glass. Air so thin and sunlight so fierce, it kills most life before it begins. And yet, not all life. Scientists have found microbial colonies living inside rocks, using the stone as a shield against deadly ultraviolet rays. Others live on rare fogs drifting from the Pacific, catching each droplet like treasure. To most of us, it's emptiness. But to these microbes, it's home, the last frontier of biological endurance. Studying the Atacama isn't just about survival, it's about hope. Because if even a grain of life can hold on here, then maybe Mars, or any distant planet, still keeps its own fragile spark somewhere beneath the dust. Fact 93. The search for life on other planets. It's the question that haunts science and philosophy alike. Are we alone? The search for extraterrestrial life isn't just about telescopes and rockets. It's about understanding what life really means. Could it exist without sunlight, without oxygen, without water as we know it? From Mars rovers to the icy moons of Jupiter and Saturn, every mission is a question in motion. Scientists look for biosignatures, chemical traces that hint at metabolism, gases that shouldn't exist without something alive to make them. But maybe the real answer lies in perspective. Every extreme life form on Earth, in acid, radiation, or ice, expands the definition of what's possible. And with every discovery, the universe feels less empty. We may not have met our cosmic neighbours yet, but the evidence is building. Life doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It adapts, always. Fact 94. How microbes teach us about alien biology. To understand alien life, we first have to understand Earth's strangest microbes. Deep in hydrothermal vents, in toxic lakes, and inside nuclear reactors, microbes do what we once thought impossible. They eat metal breathe sulfur, and thrive in acid. They are the blueprints for what alien biology might look like: strange, efficient, and endlessly adaptable. By studying their DNA, scientists imagine what life elsewhere could be, maybe silicon-based instead of carbon, or fueled by methane instead of oxygen. It's not just fiction anymore, it's molecular possibility. So when the next rover drills into Martian soil or dives through Europa's icy crust, we'll know what to look for, because microbes on Earth have already written the first chapter of life beyond Earth. Fact 95. Tardigrades, the champions of survival. Tiny, slow, and oddly adorable, tardigrades, or water bears, are nature's ultimate survivors. They're smaller than a grain of sand, but tougher than any creature alive. Boil them, freeze them, dry them, or blast them with radiation, they'll shrug it off. Scientists have even sent them into space, exposed them to the vacuum and cosmic rays, and they came back alive. Their secret lies in a strange ability. When conditions get bad, they curl up, dry out, and enter a state called cryptobiosis. In that form, they can last decades, waiting, perfectly preserved, for the return of moisture or warmth. If life ever spreads between planets, tardigrades might be the first travellers. They remind us of one thing: survival isn't about strength or size, it's about adaptation, and in that game, the tiny water bear might just be the universe's undefeated champion. Fact 96. Seeds in space. Experiments beyond Earth. When the first seeds were launched into space, no one really knew what would happen. Would they sprout? Would they mutate? Would they even survive the endless cold and radiation beyond our atmosphere? The answer came slowly and beautifully. Many did survive. Some even grew stronger. Seeds of rice, wheat, and even flowers have orbited the Earth, been exposed to the vacuum of space, and still managed to germinate once they returned home. On the International Space Station, astronauts grow lettuce and small plants under artificial light, not for food alone, but for knowledge. Each leaf, each sprout tells us how life adapts when gravity disappears, and it's not just about farming in space. These seeds carry a message. Life doesn't belong to one world. With the right conditions, or the right courage, it can take root anywhere. Fact 97. The vacuum of space. Can life really survive it? Space is the ultimate hostile environment. No air, no pressure, freezing temperatures, and radiation powerful enough to shred DNA. For most life, it's instant death, but not for all. Some microbes, spores, and even tiny creatures like tardigrades have survived direct exposure to the vacuum of space for days or even weeks. They dry out, shut down, and endure, as if nature built them with a memory of the stars. These discoveries shook our understanding of biology. If life can survive in space, even briefly, then maybe it can travel between worlds, hidden inside meteors or dust. It's called panspermia, the idea that life could spread across the cosmos naturally. So maybe we're all cosmic travellers, tiny seeds of life carried through time and distance, waiting for a place to bloom. Fact 98. Earth's extremophiles on the International Space Station. The International Space Station isn't just a home for astronauts. It's a laboratory for life at its limits. Scientists have been sending Earth's toughest microbes there for years to see how they handle zero gravity and radiation. Some of them did more than survive. They thrived. Certain bacteria grew protective biofilms, forming microscopic shields against radiation. Fungi rich in melanin even used radiation as an energy source, growing faster than on Earth. These space experiments reveal something extraordinary. Adaptation never stops. Even far from the planet that made them, these organisms found ways to live. Each sample, each petri dish floating in orbit is more than a test. It's proof that life doesn't fear the void. It learns from it. Fact 99. What Earth's extremes teach us about ourselves. Every story of survival, from microbes in boiling acid to fish beneath Antarctic ice, holds a reflection of us. Because in the end, we are also creatures of adaptation. We build homes in deserts, drill into frozen seas, and dream of cities among the stars. We may not have gills or radiation shields, but we have something just as powerful: curiosity, the will to understand, to endure, and to go further. Studying Earth's extremes isn't only about science, it's about humility. It reminds us how fragile we are, and how astonishingly clever life can be. From bacteria to humans, we share one ancient instinct: to keep going, no matter what. Fact 100. Life finds a way, the endless frontier of survival. After 100 stories, one truth remains: life always finds a way. From the ocean's black depths to the silent peaks of frozen mountains, from the boiling pools of sulfur to the airless emptiness of space, life endures. It bends, adapts, and transforms until the impossible becomes ordinary. Maybe that's the real miracle. Not where life exists, but that it refuses not to. Every experiment, every discovery, every tiny heartbeat in the dark corners of our planet points to one thing: survival isn't luck. It's the language of the universe. And if life can survive here, in every extreme Earth can offer, then somewhere, out there among the stars, it's waiting to be found again. From the deepest trenches to the edge of space, one truth echoes through every discovery: life never gives up. It stretches, adapts, and finds a way where none should exist. These 100 stories aren't just about microbes or animals, they're about resilience itself. Because in every corner of this wild planet, life proves it's stronger than fear, time, or even the laws of nature. And maybe, just maybe, that same strength exists out there among the stars. If you enjoyed this journey through Earth's most extreme places, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments which extreme environment amazed you the most, and would you dare to visit it?